Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I rise this evening to speak on two issues, both of which come under the purview of Minister Morrison in his new portfolio, that being kindergarten funding and out-of-school hours care. And interestingly, Madam Speaker, these issues reflect the contrast that you find in the electorate of Lalor. Now, people here have heard me often speak of Lalor as the home to 20,000 young families, where we average 70 to 80 babies born each week, with rapidly expanding schools. 4 new schools opened this year, and it's not uncommon for schools to have up to 12 new prep classes each year. Many of those families are newly arrived migrants and low and middle income families looking for an affordable lifestyle. The children of these families are the demographic that is shown to benefit the most from early childhood education. These children are less likely to have English as a first language, tertiary educated parents, homes full of books, pencils and paint, or a regular bedtime story. That's why access to kindergarten is so vital in my community. The local council has indicated only around 80% of local children attend kindergarten in the year before they go to school. This is something that the local community have been working to lift for some time. But it means, Madam Speaker, that many children start formal schooling without that solid early childhood background that would give them a leg up. Deputy Speaker, my community needs more early childhood education access, not less. And the Abbott government is keeping our kinders on a knife edge about future provision. They've given a 12-month extension before the Victorian state election, and so we have 15 hours running this year in the local kindergartens, but we need to know and have surety for our planning in what's going to happen next year. My community wants to know, will the government commit to the ongoing funding of universal access to kindergarten for 15 hours a week? Will the almost 30 local kindergartens be able to continue next year as they are this year? Will the provision of kindergarten service be expanded to cope with our growing population? Deputy Speaker, this is critical for our community. It's critical for the broader community, because the early education for the children of Lalor will impact on the economy over time. The Productivity Commission, as those in the chamber would be aware, have recommended the federal government continues the national partnership funding, so I call on the government to make that commitment. In contrast, Deputy Speaker, an area in my electorate called Little River has a very small school of only 100 children. Did I say Deputy Speaker? I apologise, Madam Speaker. Little River is a small rural community. It has a shop, a pub, a kindergarten, a school and a community hall. No one would call it a major city, and yet it has been classified as a major city, and as a consequence, Little River Primary School has had its out-of-school hours care cut because of that classification. Now, after lobbying last year, under the grounds that it met the criteria for a waiver, the then Minister Lay gave the school an extension to the end of this term. Now, clearly, Madam Speaker, that means that the school met the criteria for the waiver. And I'm standing tonight to ask the new minister if he would relook at this decision. There were some, Madam Speaker, who at the beginning of this process wanted to call for a reclassification. I thought that given that we met the criteria for a waiver, that would be the more sensible route and would more likely get us a positive outcome, given that a reclassification was much more complicated. But now, Madam Speaker, given that the term is nearly over, I call on the Minister to re-look at Little River and its classification in regards to out-of-school hours care, and reclassify Little River and put this issue beyond doubt for that very small community, for that school of 100 students who, Madam Speaker, is at risk without that out-of-school hours program, at risk that families will move their children to Werribee or to Lara or to Geelong and take their children to a before school hours program kilometres away from their home on their way to work. Little River needs its school. It's a school that has been rebuilt in recent years, Madam Speaker, and I ask the Minister to look at this issue.